We all ride for different reasons, but mostly we ride because we love the feeling it gives us. We don't know anybody who rides a motorcycle because they have to. Riders ride because they love the feeling of freedom and exhilaration that motorcycles give them. This tape is not about how much fun it is to ride a motorcycle. We figure you already know that. Its purpose is to give you more information so you can improve your riding technique. It is said that knowledge is power, and on a motorcycle, that's doubly true. You must know what you're doing when you ride a motorcycle. No matter what we ride, we're all on two wheels, and we all face the same situations. The purpose of this tape is to look at the situations that may arise and have a plan to deal with them in advance. This tape will put you in touch with some of the best street riders and racers in America today. Listen to what they have to say. The first thing you've got to decide is, what do I wear when I ride? Some people choose not to wear helmets and protective clothing, while others choose to wear them. Some people have no clue. This is stupid. Do yourself a favor and don't dress like this guy. This is also foolish. These people should be at the beach, not on a motorcycle. If you care about your passenger, we recommend a helmet, boots, leather pants, a jacket, and don't forget those gloves.
It looks great like that too, with the long braid. It does? Yeah, it looks really cool because it's so blonde and so your jacket's so black. Got off about 150 or more. I was sliding on my butt. Over through here, got a little close, and felt the heat rising, so I rolled over on my chest and slid on my front side for a little bit, and then got on my hips. Just kind of try to distribute the.
Put your hand through that hole again. Let me see that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're lucky to be with us.
Yeah. But anyway, leather's definitely the ticket.
The choice is yours, but again we recommend a helmet and protective gear.
But the biggest thing I find with guys that ride bikes on the streets is they do not maintain their bikes. They get on their bikes, ride around, they haven't even looked at the thing for a month. The tyres are flat, the brakes don't work, the bike doesn't run very good. That leads to all sorts of problems, especially when you start getting near the freeways, start getting some speed going. People need to just look after their motorcycles a lot better. The best people in the world check their motorcycles every time they get on them. Every time. You have to check your motorcycle a lot.
And that means everything. You want to make sure that your tires are properly inflated and that you haven't picked up any road debris. That could be nails, glass, staples, anything that could cause a blowout at high speed. When cleaning your bike, make sure you don't get any slippery lubricants on your sidewalls. Also, you want to make sure that both front and rear tires get the same treatment. Your chain and sprocket should be clean, all bolts tight, and the chain should be well adjusted and properly lubricated.
Yeah, we're Big City Racing. We're sponsored by RK Racing Chain. That's what we use in all our endurance bikes. And this particular chain has a press fit master link on it. But a lot of you street riders might have a standard type master link that has a clip on it. And one thing that's very important is to make sure that that clip is on there at all times. If it comes off, what could happen is your chain can come off the sprocket, which is an obvious safety problem. So you want to make sure you take a look at that every time you ride.
You must be responsible for looking after your motorcycle. It must be well maintained. If you take good care of your motorcycle, it will take good care of you. are two brakes on a motorcycle. The front brake and the rear brake. We recommend using only the front brake. Watch these racers as they brake for a turn. They're using the front brake only. Look again in slow motion as the front end dives under heavy braking. With so much of the bike's weight on the front wheel, this makes the rear brake ineffective. Look at this racer. He's so good on the front brake, he faked out the cameraman. You can see here, the front brake is doing 100% of the stopping. Under heavy braking, he brings the rear wheel off the ground. Here's another look at that expert racer's technique. It doesn't get any better than this.
One of my highest suggestions is learn how to brake. Braking is one of your most important tools on keeping yourself up and together. The best thing to do is learn how to panic stop. A panic stop is being able to put as much brake as you can as fast as you can. And you should learn where that point is to where you're going to break the front tire and the rear tire loose. And the only way you can do it is practice. And the best way to do it is find yourself a parking lot and just go at certain speeds and feel what your brake is like. Especially if you have a brand new motorcycle, you have to learn how to brake that bike, how to pull it down as fast as you can. You never know what's going to come out in front of you. And if you break the tires loose, you're on your head. You don't want to do that.
This is an expert motorcyclist showing you complete front brake control.
You hear the skid? That's when you let off.
Don't just pull the brake lever hard, give it gradual pressure. This rider is locking up the front wheel. If you lock up the front wheel and keep it locked, you will crash. You have about a second to release the brakes before this happens. Watch in slow motion as the rider keeps the wheel locked and the bike begins to turn in. Had he not released the brake, he would have fallen. You should practice safe braking. This rider is an expert and he makes it look easy. We recommend you practice finding the limits of braking at the California Superbike School. It's the only place we know of where you can crash a motorcycle and not fall down. Be very careful when braking. Don't try too much, too soon.
When braking a motorcycle, always remember to do all of your braking while the bike is straight up and down. Get off the brakes and slowly start to accelerate and countersteer as you enter the corner.
Here's a shot of Chuck Graves at speed. He gets all of his braking and shifting done before he gets into the corner.
What you want to do is remember to not use the brakes while the bike is leaned over in the corner. If you're braking real hard with the front wheel, get it done while the bike is still straight up and down. If you enter the corner or get the bike leaned over and grab the brakes, you're sure to crash.
Always ride with 2 fingers on your brake lever. If you ever need to stop quickly, it can save you half a second. Motorcycles can stop quicker than cars and trucks, so always consider what's behind you before you apply your brake. There's no way that this truck is going to stop in the same distance as you can, so hard braking may not always be the answer. If you run off the road, in the grass or the dirt, don't panic. A light combination of front and rear brakes while remaining straight up and down is your best bet. Remember, straight up and down and lightly on those brakes. At speed, motorcycles don't steer like cars. You must learn how to countersteer your motorcycle.
Okay, you want to know about countersteering, a little bit about countersteering. Well, it's really the only way to turn a corner or to maneuver a motorcycle any direction to avoid a vehicle, to avoid debris on the road. Countersteering as such means just to pull a handlebar the opposite way you want to go. For instance, if you wish to turn right, pull your left-hand handlebar, and vice versa. If you want to turn left, pull your right-hand handlebar. And you will find the bike steers really quickly that way, more precise. It's just the only way to turn a motorcycle the way you should turn a motorcycle.
So there is no other way to turn it?
There is no other way to turn a motorcycle, no.
So that's the way all the racers should turn it?
Everybody that's going fast anyway. I mean, there are guys that are racing that are still learning the correct way to countersteer a motorcycle. But yes, everyone that races motorcycles uses countersteering. Everybody that teaches anything to do with motorcycle riding or racing all teach you the aspects of countersteering. It's good for safety. It's the best way your bike will handle.
Watch this racer as he makes countersteering work for him.
Countersteering is making the front tire go the opposite direction of the corner you're entering. When doing that, you're pushing on the handlebar on the inside part of the corner. So if you're making a right-hand corner, you push out on the right-hand handlebar. That makes the bike fall right over into the corner.
You can steer the bike very quickly. Remember not to make a steering change with the gas on. The bike won't like that. Roll on the throttle after you make the steering change.
Okay, to turn the bike when you're above 25 miles an hour, you're going to turn left, and the bike is going to pull over, and it's going to make a right turn. Then you straighten it out, you level it out, and if you're going to make a left turn, you turn the bars to the right, and the bike is going to pull up, and it's going to pull over to the left, and you're going to make your left turn. And you have to remember that to turn the bike when you're at speed, you are counter steering. A right turn is turn left, the bike turns over, and it's going to make a right turn. Turn it back up. To turn left, you turn the bars to the right, and it's going to make a left turn. It's all due to gyroscopic forces, and it confuses everybody, but once you get used to it, you don't even think about it, and it just happens. And it's the only way to get through a corner.
Learn to countersteer your motorcycle. You should develop this kind of control. A light touch on the bars is all you need. Make your steering input and relax. You should be able to turn your bike instantly, on command. You should develop this kind of control. Practice countersteering every time you ride. Here's a slow motion look at countersteering. Watch the front tire. There. That's countersteering at work. Countersteering should be second nature. You shouldn't have to think about it. Practice it until you can instantly put your bike where you want it. At speeds under 25 miles per hour, just turn the wheel in the direction you want to go. Remember, a light touch on the bars is all you need. One more thing, never shift while leaned over in a corner. It will upset the suspension. You must be extra careful at intersections. When you stop at a stop sign, make sure to look both ways and don't proceed until you're positive there's no traffic coming. This is important because you're not in a car with a ton of metal around you. A mistake here can be very costly, so be sure. When passing through an intersection, don't just blaze through at high speed. You have to slow down to 25 miles an hour before you pass through the intersection. A car turning left is your number one danger at an intersection. In Los Angeles, you can find them at any intersection. So don't just speed through intersections. Because if you're going too fast and a car pulls out in front of you, you will not have time to stop. If you're going at a slower speed, you'll have plenty of time to brake and or go around. Make it a rule. Slow down at intersections. That will put what happens to you at an intersection in your control. If your speed is too high, the situation is out of your control. It's that simple. Another technique is to follow cars through the intersection. It looks like this. Use the cars as blockers and don't stay too close or too far behind them. Sometimes a vehicle blocks your vision. Don't proceed until you can see that nothing is coming. Learn to recognize these situations and position the bike for better visibility. When you have to stop at a light, don't turn off the engine and kick back. It's not a time to relax. You should always be alert. In fact, at some busy intersections, you should keep the bike in first gear with the clutch in. Always be aware of what's going on behind you. And when the light turns green, wait and let things settle. Make sure no one is going to run the light. Some riders hate the feeling of waiting to turn at a busy intersection. If you don't like it, pick a different route. It's that simple. Another thing to remember is make sure that you can see that all lanes are clear before committing to the turn. If a vehicle is blocking your view, nose up and peek around before making the turn. Always stop in the tire tracks. There's less oil and antifreeze there. As a rule, intersections are slippery places. The paint on the road can be slippery, especially when wet. It's not a good place to practice hard braking. Remember, be sure the lanes are clear before you go through an intersection. Many riders are afraid to ride on the freeways. They shouldn't be. Statistically, freeways are much safer than regular city streets. This is because on a freeway, all traffic is moving in the same direction. This removes the urban motorcyclist's #1 danger, the driver who turns left in front of you. Things happen fast on freeways. This increased speed calls for quicker reactions on your part. You must size up situations very quickly. In order to deal with these situations, you must look further ahead. This is very important. As your speed increases, you must also increase your forward field of vision. Peripheral vision is very important while riding on a freeway. Learn to recognize when things don't look quite right. Always be looking ahead for things that may be lying on the road's surface. At higher speeds, protective gear becomes even more important. It's best when you have no cars in front of you, blocking your line of sight. If a car blocks your view, just move over. There. That's much better. Increased visibility means more reaction time. Let's go back a minute. Be careful when traveling up freeway on-ramps. They're usually quite slippery. Check the traffic as you enter the freeway and adjust your speed so you can make a smooth and safe merge into traffic. You should always ride with your tachometer in the power band so that you can accelerate rapidly if you need to. Here's one thing we can't stress enough. Don't ride at excessive speeds on the freeway. At these speeds, you have no options if a car moves over in your lane. You're going too fast. You will not be able to react. Most riders we know like to ride at a speed that's a little bit faster than the cars are going. Move over as you approach freeway on-ramps. very important rule is don't follow too closely, and don't follow trucks. They completely block your view, and you should always be looking ahead of you for things in the road that might cause you a traction problem. In LA, we've seen everything from 2x4s to mattresses and furniture. Never put yourself in a position like this. We sent this rider out to look for trouble, and he found it. Watch the truck in front as he hits the curb and almost tips over. That was close. So the rule to remember is, stay away from trucks. Again, don't follow any vehicle that blocks your line of sight. If you find yourself behind a vehicle like this, just change lanes. If there's a lot of traffic, stay to the right or the left of the lane so you can see past the car in front of you. Learn to always place your bike in a position that affords you the best line of sight to what's in front of you. The faster you are able to spot potentially dangerous situations, the quicker you will be able to react to them. That extra time is worth a lot. So make this a part of your freeway riding techniques every time you ride. If you're ever confronted with an object in your line of travel and you're unable to avoid it, don't be on the front brakes as you run over it. It's best to unload the front end by giving the bike a little gas. One more thing about trucks. Things fall out of them. We've all seen this. In a situation like this, wouldn't it be great to be a motor cop? The traffic in Los Angeles is very bad. Scenes like this are commonplace. Motorcyclists in LA are allowed to split lanes. It may or may not be legal where you ride. We think a motorcycle is the only way to travel in traffic like this. Look at how much time is saved. Remember to watch out for people's car doors opening suddenly. It's something that happens on occasion. Try and stay between the lanes instead of weaving in and out, like this guy is doing. When traffic stops suddenly, don't just dive between the cars and start splitting lanes. Watch and be sure that everyone is stopping. A lot of 3- and 4-car accidents happen this way, and you don't want to be part of them. Once you're sure it's safe to proceed, do so at slow speed. No more than 10 miles an hour faster than the cars you're passing. We can't stress enough how important this is. Too much speed makes lane splitting extremely dangerous, so keep your speed down. Always remember that the cars you are passing probably don't see you. When you're splitting lanes, watch out for gaps in traffic. Other cars will fill them. Learn to anticipate these lane changes and don't be surprised by them. Remember, no faster than 10 miles an hour above the speed of traffic. If you follow this rule, in most cases, you will have time to react to a car changing lanes. Bumper stickers and custom license plates may be fun to read, but not while you're riding. If you don't follow the 10-mile-an-hour rule and a car cuts in front of you, you won't be able to stop in time. When changing lanes, you must use your mirrors and check your blind spot by turning your head. That doesn't mean turning around and looking backwards like this guy. You should never turn your head so far back that you lose sight of what's in front of you. Don't ever do this. It's what's in front that's most important to you. That doesn't mean that you should ever lose track of what's behind you. You should always know what's back there. You wouldn't want to brake hard in front of this guy. Sometimes when riding over rain grooves, the bike may feel a bit unstable. This is caused by the tread pattern tracking the grooves. Relax your grip on the bars, and you should be fine. Never fight it by tensing up on the bars. There's nothing like a ride down your favorite back road, but there are some things you should know about riding in the canyons.
All right, my tip for guys out there as far as on the street, most of us racers out here started out riding in the canyons, and that's a fun place to start, but it is a little more dangerous than the racetrack. I would have to say my tip is to treat your lane of the road as it is just like a racetrack. The other side of the road might as well be a cliff, it might as well be a guardrail. Treat between that yellow line and the white line outside as that's all the road that you have, okay, and make it a habit of keeping just in that area and try to be really smooth and consistent.
That means don't ever cross the center line.
Now, the only riding tip I have for y'all is when you go into the canyons and ride, be aware of who you're riding with and how fast they're riding. If you're following somebody and they look like they're going over your head, back off so they don't fall down. If somebody's following you and you notice they're going a little too fast, back off, because you are responsible for the people you're riding with. So be aware of who you're riding with and who you're pushing.
Go at your own pace. Don't let other riders push you.
Another panic situation a lot of people do when they're riding the canyons, they come around a corner and they see some debris in the road and they panic. They straighten up and they ride off the road into the dirt and end up falling down. My tip for that is when you see a piece of debris in the road, you have to remember that if you have a patch of road that's maybe only 5-6 inches wide, let's say gravel or water or oil, okay, that's only going to maybe your 20% of your tire is going to roll through that. What I tell people to do is straighten up just for a second. As soon as you roll through that, concentrate on continuing your arc nice and smooth instead of straightening up and going over the double yellow lines, okay, because that situation can be a lot worse. You have to remember you're still going to have 75 or 80% of your tire that's going to be completely clean, free of debris to give you traction to make that turn as long as you're smooth and stay on a nice continuous arc around the corner. Like the dirt and water isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. Going over the double yellow lines and having something oncoming or hitting a guardrail or hitting some dirt or going off a cliff can be a lot worse.
Racers get all of their braking and shifting done before they enter the corner. As soon as they steer the bike, they begin to slowly roll on the throttle. This will settle the suspension as you go through the corner. It also will take more weight off the front wheel. You can learn another thing from racers. Watch the rider in front. The line he chooses through the corners places him right on the yellow line. That is not a good place to be, because you have no idea what's coming towards you. Can you see how this may be important to you? Don't ever follow a guy who rides like this. He's an accident waiting to happen, and you don't want to see it. This is not the way to do it. This is dangerous riding technique, and it's not even the fastest way through the corner. Instead, move to the outside of the corner that you're going to enter. Go in deep, then make your steering change. There are other advantages to the wide, deep entry line. Racers use it because it's the fastest way through a corner. For a street rider, it will put you in a better position to see what's coming around the corner. These two riders each saw that car at the same time. The rider in front has less time to react. Learn to look ahead of you. The faster you go, the further ahead you must look. If you want to know more about proper lines and cornering, get a copy of Keith Code's A Twist to the Wrist video or book. You'll find all you need to know in there. Racers are already looking into the corner before they make their steering change. Do you think that could work for you? One thing to remember: don't race in the canyons.
Yeah, it gives you a good idea of what happened. Like what you have are the skids on the left, which are coming towards us. They veer into the right lane over here. And the motorcycle is coming towards us. And apparently he either slid or was going too fast, or for some reason or another got onto the wrong side of the road, struck the Mazda head on at this point where the red mark stopped. The Mazda then flipped over, went off to the right. The motorcycle went into the Mazda, up over into the windshield, and the rider was ejected, and he's critical, and the 3 people in the Mazda are injured.
Stick racing to the track, racing in canyons, back streets, drag racing on the backcountry roads. A lot of people get hurt. There's no corner worker to pick you up if you crash in the canyon. There's no ambulance right there to take you to hospital. You're going to lay there, you're going to be hurt for a long time. That's my opinion. If you're a canyon racer, don't bother doing it. It's dangerous.
If you want to race, go racing on the track, where you can let it all hang out.
Once you ride on the racetrack, you'll find that going fast on the street is not something that you want to do. It's not safe to do. It's not in a controlled atmosphere. You don't have an ambulance waiting for you. And once you do it, you'll get on the street and you'll find out how stupid it really is to go fast out there.
When you stop behind another vehicle, don't pull right up on his rear bumper like this. Once you do this, you're out of the game. You can't move until he does. And what if he decides to back up? Then what? Pressed up against the back of another vehicle, you cannot move. If the car behind you can't stop, you've got no place to go. Instead, leave enough room between you and the rear of the car in front so that you can move around it if you have to. Sometimes it's safer to move in between the cars. Don't ever pull your attention away from your riding. Always be concentrating on your ride. If you don't want to concentrate on your ride, pull over. You don't want to daydream while you ride. There are too many surprises out there. You should always be monitoring your traction. You do this by looking at the road surface ahead of you and anticipating your future traction. At the same time, you're also looking at the traffic situation in front of you. Learn to evaluate conditions quickly so you have time to react. Use your mirrors. Always be aware of what's behind you. The vehicles behind you factor into all of your riding decisions. It may sound like a lot to be concentrating on at once, but you'll be surprised at how easy it is to ride and be aware. It's a good feeling.
The thing I enjoy most about the street is predicting what that person's going to do, predicting the fact that, yeah, that truck's probably going to pull out from behind that blind corner because he's not going to look, predicting the fact that, hey, I'm on a lightly traveled road, that car's not going to expect anybody coming down this road, he's going to pull right out of his driveway without stopping. Prediction, that's what it's all about. If you master one thing, master prediction. Even if it's something, even if you play a game with yourself, such as, I bet that, what happens if that load from that truck in front comes loose? Where can I go? What can I do? Predict your escape road, predict how hard you can hit the brakes, predict what kind of pavement you're on, how your brakes are going to work. Prediction. It'll keep you alive on the streets.
You must always be ready for anything. Play the what-if game. What if that car... That way, you're ready when a car pulls left in front of you. Monitor the parked cars as you approach them. If there's a driver behind the wheel, check to see if the wheels are turned out towards the street. Ride to the left of the lane so you have a better angle of sight on the row of parked cars. Most riders are afraid of the rain. You shouldn't be. It's fun to ride in the rain. The worst thing about it is you have to clean your bike later. It challenges your riding skills. You must be very smooth, and you can't lean the bike over as much as you would in the dry. Watch these racers as they show you how it's done.
Now in second place, Brian Bernard has dropped back to third, and Mike Hart is in fourth position.
Now, as far as braking goes in the rain, well, you need to brake while the bike is straight up and down. You can brake as hard enough to bring the rear tire off the ground if you keep the bike going straight and you ease on the brakes. You really don't want to do any abrupt movements when you're riding in the rain.
Once again, watch these racers as they negotiate the slippery track. This is expert riding. See how relaxed they are? You do everything the same as you would on dry pavement, but to a lesser degree.
He was never challenged again for the lead, although Mike Smith looked like he really wanted to be riding with Rich Oliver. He couldn't cut it with...
Be smooth. Be smooth and keep out of the oil slick that's in the middle of the lane. Stick to either the left-hand side of the lane or the right-hand side of the lane. The riding in the center of the lane is the most dangerous part. And if the road has some camber, stay to the upper side of the camber, because the water, for instance, will run to the inside of the road, or any debris on the leaves and stuff in the rain will be washed to one side of the road, so stay to the higher side of the road.
You must be especially smooth with your throttle. Too much throttle, and the back end will step out. This is a good time to mention that if the back end does slide out, just stop giving it gas. Don't crack it off. If you shut off the throttle during a slide, the back end will hook up and you could cause yourself to crash. It's the same on dry pavement. If the rear end slides out as you roll on the throttle, don't shut it off. Just stop giving it more gas. It sounds scary, but that's your best bet. So, throttle control is very important. Always work to be smooth because the road is very slippery. The consequences of not being smooth might look something like this. Be especially careful at the beginning of a rainfall. The first drops of water will have a tendency to bring up the oil on the road surface. This rider leaned it over on the paint. Don't ever do that. Always be aware of who's behind you. Racers push themselves and their motorcycles well past the limit. They probably demand more from their bikes in one race than you will in a lifetime of street riding. Sometimes they crash. What can you learn from these crashes? The first thing to remember if you're going down is to get away from the bike. Just let go and relax. As you can see, these racers are okay. They're getting right up. Their protective gear and helmets are working for them. That's why we recommend helmets, gloves, and leathers. We know for a fact that they work. So remember, if you're going to crash, let go of the bike and relax. You'll most likely be fine. Watch these racers as they make incredible saves. How do they do it? They remain relaxed, never tense up on the bars, and they don't panic. Another thing to remember is this. If you are confronted by something you don't want to hit, that's in your path, don't look at it. Because if you do, you'll head right for it. Look where you want to be and go there. You can practice this when you ride. Pick a spot on the road up ahead and practice missing it.
And I have a little tip for street riders that when you're lane splitting on the freeways or highways, if you watch the front tires of the cars as you come up on them, the front tire is going to turn before the car turns. Gives you about another split second or so to make a decision on whether you can get by them or have to slow down.
So I treat everybody on the road as though they don't know what they're doing. You have to be prepared for everything. I treat everybody on the road as an idiot that doesn't know what they're doing. So with that and looking after your motorcycle, keeping aware, you should have safe riding all the time.
There's only one thing that governs my speed and my placement on the street. On the streets, especially in the Hollywood area, Los Angeles area, I ride there every day. And there's one thing that basically directs my whole day. It's not speed limits, it's not police officers, it's not Greyhound buses, it's blind spots. My speed and my location on the freeway or the surface streets is governed by blind spots only. And I ride from visible spot to visible spot. I use the acceleration of a motorcycle. That's one thing people say, ride defensively, but you also got to ride aggressively, especially when avoiding blind spots. If you sit in a blind spot and a car moves over on you, don't honk your horn, don't kick at the door, it's your fault. You're in their blind spot. You've got to use that power to get by them. If you're in a blind spot and you're also tailgating a car, back off that car, get out of that blind spot next to you. Blind spots. If you master blind spots, in my opinion, you got it kicked. Riding in the streets can be easy, fun, a good time, but stay out of the blind spots. Blind spots. Am I clear? One thing, blind spots.
As far as the safety tip goes, I think the best thing I ever learned was the first thing I ever learned in driver's ed, which is always leave yourself an out. For example, if there's an off-ramp coming up on the highway or the freeway, make sure you don't leave yourself in a position to get taken out by a driver making a snap decision.
Said a lot of incidents that riders get into, like they lock up the back brake, they end up sliding into a car, and like they don't get themselves out of the situation.
Whenever you're braking a motorcycle, you want to use the front brake only. You have 100% of the stopping power is in the front wheel. You can brake as hard as you want until the rear tire comes up off the ground.
Riding with a passenger places added responsibility on you. They are in your hands. Instruct your passenger to relax and hold on to you. They shouldn't be moving around on the bike, as this will upset the balance. With a passenger on your bike, you operate the controls in exactly the same way as when you ride alone. When cornering, your passenger should lean with you. Instruct them in this practice because they will usually want to lean away from the corner when you enter it, and that will upset the balance. Allow a bit more time for braking, as the added weight will increase the distance you're able to stop it. Passengers should keep their feet on the pegs. If the bike doesn't have rear pegs, you shouldn't be carrying a passenger. Now what's going on here? Only 2 people per motorcycle, please. Would you ride with your kids like this? We wouldn't. Let's face it, car drivers pull in front of motorcyclists because they don't see them. You must assume that people don't see you. When you're behind a car, try to ride in a spot where he will see you in his mirror. It's easy to disappear in traffic. You have a very small profile. Drivers who turn in front of motorcyclists always seem to say, "But I didn't even see him." Never expect motorists to see you. Expect them not to see you at all. That way, you won't be surprised if they should pull in front of you. Beware of eye contact. You may think you have eye contact with a driver, but you can never really be sure. What if the driver's drunk? They could be looking right at you, but who knows what they're seeing. This is a good time to mention that a large portion of motorcyclists involved in accidents were found to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Never drink or use drugs and ride your motorcycle. Parking lots are easy places not to be noticed. Be extra careful in parking lots. People are in a hurry, and they're thinking about other things, like looking for a parking place. It may not look like it, but it's a good time to be extra alert. You can always be riding safely in town if you keep your speed low. That way you'll always have time to react. As much as you may want to, don't do this. It takes your attention away from what's in front of you. Riding at night calls for special measures in the city. Your little headlight blends into the thousands of other headlights. If you thought people couldn't see you during the day, know and believe that they can't see you at night. So what do? You slow down. The darkness restricts your visibility as well, so you have to adjust for it. Never ride out of your lights. Excessive speed at night quickly becomes your enemy. At night, it's harder for you to see the road surface in front of you, because your lights only illuminate a short distance ahead of the bike. You don't want to come up too fast on something you didn't see and not have enough time to stop. Learn to read the headlights of the car in front of you. You already know to ride in the tire tracks, and if you do that, it's easy to see what's coming up. Watch for cars ahead that swerve quickly. That's a clue that there's something up ahead they don't want to run over. That's information that could be useful to you. Big trucks rarely swerve to avoid things in the road. There's another reason not to follow them.
Don't ride out of your lights. Ride to a speed where if something comes into your lights, you can stop in time. Too many people ride at night. The latest street bikes have good lights, but they're also too powerful for the lighting they have at night. You have to be a lot more cautious at night. Don't outride your lights.
You're only on two wheels, and you only have so much. You only got about 1.5 inches of your tire on the road. And being smart on the street is driving down the street and always looking in the road, seeing what you're going over. If you're coming around the corner, you're going into a shaded area, slow it down, reel it in. Don't say, I'm going to make it through this corner, because there's a rock, there's a pebble, there's gravel, there's sand. If you go in that at too high a speed, it's going to break the tire loose, and you don't want that to happen.
Become an expert at reading situations ahead. Traffic conditions are constantly changing, and you must change with them. This rider should have changed lanes before entering the intersection. That puts him in a better position to see around the truck making the left-hand turn. It also makes it easier to be seen by the car waiting to turn left. If you choose not to wear a helmet, don't wear one on your arm. It looks dumb and serves no purpose. Sometimes a quick zigzag will help people notice you. Use this technique sparingly though, as it also may confuse other drivers. Always ride in a gear that keeps the engine in the power band. That way, you'll always be in the right gear to accelerate rapidly should you need to. You won't have to downshift, you'll already be in the right gear. Even on an open road, when there's no one around, you should always be aware of your situation. Slow down in town. We can think of many reasons. Know where your kill switch is, and learn how to use it.
People say drive defensively. I say ride defensively and aggressively. There's a combination that keep you alive on the streets. I ride in Los Angeles traffic every day, 365 days a year, and I ride on all kinds of different motorcycles. And if you can get the combination of defensive driving, in other words, watching out for what the other guy's going to do, predicting what the other guy's going to do, and avoiding it when he does it, and aggressively getting out of the way so that there's absolutely no way that person can hit you anyway.
Disregard turn signals on all vehicles but your own. You don't know which way a car is going to turn until it begins to make the turn. Use your turn signals, but don't believe anyone else's. When you use your turn signals, make sure you turn them off after making the turn. Don't stand with your back to oncoming traffic. It's just as easy to face the opposite direction, where you'll be able to spot anything you may need to see. When pulling out of traffic, always try to stop so you place a parked car between you and oncoming traffic. When making a turn, always be sure that the cars behind you are aware of what you're about to do. Try signaling and slowing down early, then watch to see if the car slows. When traffic stops in front of you, and you must stop too, be certain to monitor the cars behind you. If you see a car in your mirror that appears not to be stopping, you may want to accelerate rapidly. You don't have to be an expert racer to ride safely on the street. If you incorporate the information found on this tape into your riding habits, we believe you will end up facing far fewer unpleasant encounters while you ride. Street riding is a thinking person's game. Think about your riding. Analyze what you do in certain situations and look for ways to improve your riding skills and street tactics. You should constantly be working to become a better rider.